In this video, I'm going to walk through the Google Doc version of the student materials for day 9 and 10 Japanese internment. This document is pretty long, but it's because I include I include all the case files in this document. So you can really, I suggest you take the document and you adjust it for your own needs. So I'm going to walk through it as is and then explain some ways that you might modify it for your own class. So just like previous lessons, the focus question and lesson objective are included at the top along with the directions that students need to write their responses in the blue boxes. It includes the hook. So what is a detective? What methods do they use to solve crimes? And that's all part of the introduction or model portion of the lesson. And it gives them sort of the directions or background of what they're going to be doing. And then the case file that they will be working on with you in the model. This is done with you, but it's their practice for what they're going to be doing on their own. So they're looking for who and where. And some things I noticed while I was doing this was just that the students really had no context at this point, unless I added stuff to the lesson. They really had no context. So from reading this document, it's a little hard to answer who committed the crime or even what the crime was, and that's not asked there. So you might want to modify this if you feel like it's just kind of coming out of nowhere, or if you like the idea of this being an investigation, play into the confusion, because there probably will be based on this document. And that's why you're doing it with your students rather than sending them off alone to do this particular document. So then the Google Doc, it contains the full who, when, where, what, why, and how chart all on one page. And it gives students the same directions they have in the slides. And it also links to the documents themselves. So if you click on these links, it will bring you to the documents in the same file. But if you want to, you can have students sort of do the work on this file and look at the Google Slides for the documents themselves, in which case I would suggest deleting the case files off of this Google document. But if you don't want to do that, then they can just click the link and it will bring them straight down to the case files here. The case 9 files, there are 4 of them in addition to the one that you did with your class. In the Google Slides, the Korematsu Supreme Court ruling and the personal justice denied documents are on 2 slides. So it actually kind of seems like there's 6 documents. There's only 4. I combined them into one. And these are text heavy. And when you lay them out like this in one document, they look really text heavy. So that's just something to keep in mind about what you're working with and what your students are expected to do here. There are vocabulary words included for the first 2 and not for the last 2. So what I did here is I added sort of some answers that you can get out of the documents. And these are by no means exhaustive, but there are some things that students can get from the documents as they read them. So if you access the link provided on the screen, these comments will be there for you. So when you read the first document, which is the NAACP's take on Japanese internment, you can get who was the victim, why it was happening, or what the real motive was, besides not what the stated motive was, which are 2 different things in this lesson. In the Korematsu Supreme Court ruling, you've got sort of a deeper understanding of who's involved in imprisoning these many Americans. It expands to not just the president's executive order, but to the whole government, because the Supreme Court allowed it to happen, the Congress approved it, and the president ordered it. So all 3 of the branches of government are involved. But this document really supports the government's given reason, which was fear of military dangers, and whereas the NAACP document, it gives the reason of racism towards Japanese Americans. So that's important for students to see the difference in there. So if you were really to pick and choose here of which documents you would use, I kind of would pick document 2 and 3 because they are really good at contrasting each other. Document 4, again, is it's more corroborating with document 2, but it's from 1983, so it's a little it's a secondary source, and it has more hindsight to it. It definitely discusses Executive Order 9066. So that's, in my eyes, the how of how this all happened, and it continues to discuss the why. And then document 5, I mentioned this in my first video of this series. Document 5 is a really quick kind of a background content document, so it gives students a better understanding of what's going on. It's a great place for students who might get confused easily and then get easily frustrated to start with, but it will kind of give everything away if you're trying to do the investigation. And it gives a lot of information, who, what, where. You can really get a lot out of this document. And so that's day 9. So you would have students add all this information to their chart in this Google Doc. On day 10, you've got your four images. So the first 2 are, 5 images. The first 2 are Japanese Americans being relocated. It really points out, really drives home that this wasn't just men. This was families. This was young children. They were forced to move with all of their belongings. It also really drives home that the military was behind this and carrying these orders out. It's important for students to remember and realize, and this document 7 is helping point that out, that these are prisons and that they were stuck there and that they could not leave. And so that's something for students to really pick up out of here. And I talked a little bit about the Dr. Seuss cartoon in the last video. And there's a lot of content here, and this is a place for students to explore the who. Yes, the government was the group that was enacting this and approving this, but it had the support of many Americans, and so this could be part of the discussion, especially for some advanced students. And the last document, which is a map of internment camps, really focuses on the where. It gives you a lot of information about the what and the how and the who, but it also really lays out where these relocation centers were located. So that's it for the documents. When students are done with day 9 and they add all their documents in here, this Google Doc has a place for the day 9 wrap up, which you can see a potential answer. But this is a range, and so you should use your day 9 wrap up to gauge whether students are on the right track or if you need to do some intervention. The day 10 investigation and wrap up and check for understanding are on the same page, but I tried to stop students from continuing with this little stop sign. Now, I did a very basic investigation report, but if you want students to have more detail or to include their document evidence, by all means, adjust the model or be clearer with the directions to achieve what you want. And then the wrap up is there for you. That's a student opinion, so I didn't add an answer. The check for understanding, there are lots of acceptable responses to the first task, but the second to connect it to other laws in the nation's history. Students might discuss the 3/5 Compromise, the Chinese Exclusion Act, the 1920s immigration quotas, Jim Crow laws. There are a number of laws that students can bring up. Those are just a few, but it would be great to see some of those connections being made. And students really should be familiar with at least the first 3 listed here. And that's it. It's a very dense lesson, but it has a lot of really great opportunities for students to engage with documents and to really get a lot out of them in their role as historians. So I enjoy this lesson a lot.